Player Will.
Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. This is a new account review of some recommendations of where I think you should take your account if you are new to the game. Now, admittedly, my kind of content is curated for more veteran accounts, more high-end things, and so while welcome to the channel if you are new, whether from Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which unfortunately just announced its closure, or just generally joining, I did want to put this out there because I do think there's some updated recommendations that should help you navigate just how daunting it can be to start up a new account. Now, full disclosure, Oren J is one of the biggest content creators in our community. I do highly recommend you follow him. I do think he has some of the easiest to digest content in terms of a new player, what you need to know, really cutting through things. So while I appreciate you being here and watching this, absolutely give him a follow. Same thing with KT7up. They do fantastic videos on character reviews and whatnot. But moving past the shoutouts now, when you enter the game, I do have a new account here to kind of highlight this. When you are first brought into the summon section of the game, there are a fair amount of select banners, which makes it easier that you don't have to really focus on re-rolling on this game like you do with some of the others. But one of the easiest ways to kind of cut through some of this noise is use this filter button right here and click on beginners, because there are banners limited for 7 days when you create a new account that are perfect for what you want to do. And so we're going to make this new account based off of these beginner banners and talk about some other small things. There's obviously lots of tips. I'm not going to go through everything here, but let's talk about the 5 banners that you'll primarily be pulling on that are under this free category here on the left. Now you have 3 different banners that are unit oriented and 2 different banners that are vision card oriented. Now these vision card ones, you can use one of them 3 times, and one of these unit banners is 4 different steps, so you get to choose a unit 4 different steps along the way. Now there is a couple paid banners, and I do actually recommend going for these top 2 banners here. One of them is 300 paid, one of them is 60 paid. You can very easily get that amount of 360 paid for this $7.99 US bundle. That's also a 30-day login bonus for Visior. I don't think $8 is an egregious amount to put into a gacha game. Obviously, at your discretion, it's not going to make or break your account, but these are fully leveled units that are certainly going to expedite how quickly you can ramp up. So I do highly recommend them. The paid vision card one is more expensive. You can likely pass on that, quite frankly. But if you want to throw money at it, obviously not going to stop you. That one's certainly valuable in its own right. And so we're going to work through a couple different decisions you can make in where you want to build your account. Is there a best option? Maybe, but there are certainly a bunch of different competitive options, and I am going to flash this next screen just as a cheat sheet for what I personally think is best based on these 5 free banners here featured on the left, and optionally the 360 paid of the top 2 ones here. And so this is personally my best recommendation. There's a popularity banner running at the moment. I don't know how long it's going to last there for, but I would pull Jeume off of this popularity banner. You do get them only at level 1. And so I don't want to go through every single step here because we are going to go through it in the presentation. But just to segue, this popularity banner, there's a couple things to really quickly understand about the game. There's limited units, which are not available to get shards for at any time, and there's permanent pool units, which you can get shards for at any time based on various select tickets they offer in the store sometimes, based on login bonuses, based on duplicate pulling in the pool. So as a new player, I do recommend going from these permanent pool units. The limited ones, you're obviously going to be stuck if you don't pull them in time. So I've got a very generic color coding here for some of the units that I think are the best investments. I do think Ashen King Mod is an excellent unit, but he comes at level 1, and unless you don't build him quickly, you're gonna have to wait for these banners to rerun to get those shards later. So while he is a thumbs up for me, I do recommend Jeume here on the first step of the popularity, because you can build her up over time based on what's in the game. The other units here, some of them aren't bad. I have these 2 yellow units. This is Aldoa and Dario. They are tanks, and Volke here on the very far left with the red hair is also a tank. Tanks aren't bad in this game. They're just maybe not as bang for your buck as some of these other units. And although I do think all of them are serviceable here on the left, again, they're limited in when you can acquire the shards, so I'm a little hesitant to pull them. If we go more to the right here, this is Astrius here with the red X. This is overall a decent lightning unit, but he is unfortunately slightly power crept at this point that I wouldn't recommend going that direction. And the same can be said for the dark unit Ketone here on the very far right. This is more of a niche unit for a more veteran account. The last one here is Helen of the Black Rose with the orange marker here. Not a bad unit. She is permanent pool. You will have opportunities to get her later though, and although she's still an overall solid unit, I just think that Jeume is probably more applicable for a starter account given her element, her weapon type, things of that nature. So I do go with Jeume here on step 1 and build her ASAP. That's definitely a priority. Now, as we go through the next banner here, this select UR, you can pick any of the units in the game up to a certain date, and to me, this is where the decision tree starts. To me, there's really 3 units here that are even worth considering pulling, and they're not all equal, quite frankly. They're all a little bit different in how they want to go. You have the 3 trees. One is Lucielle Route, one is the new Gilgamesh unit, and one is Jeume herself. She is in this pool, but this is why I recommend getting her on the popularity. I personally think Gilgamesh is the best unit here, and likely will be for quite some time. So to me, I think it's a double whammy to get Jeume on the popularity, then get Gilgamesh here. The water and ice overlap is really strong in this game with the vision cards, which we'll get to soon. So I think this is a really great starting spot. That being said, Lucielle Route is one of the best supports in the game, and you will need a support somewhere in your kit. It's just not as sexy of a team, if you know what I mean. There's certainly nothing wrong with her, and I obviously have her here for honorable mention. But my personal preference would be go to Gilgamesh here, assuming you've already pulled Jeume on that first one. Now, this four-step select banner, the way this works is each step has 3 different units you can pick. And so which unit you pick depends on who you got on this prior banner, which one of these 3. So the way I broke this down was, if you went the Lucielle route, again, not my favorite, but it's certainly still a good one, I would pick Xiao's step 1. I think she's the other best support in the game. Although they're nearly identical in many aspects, Xiao's is a lower cost unit, so when you're making teams that have a cost restriction, she does have some value. They share the Staff Devout class, so there's some vision card overlap, but the other units on the step 1 of the banner, Grifford and Bronwell, I'm not all that high on. I think you can just go for Xiao's. Now, Flagbearer Glaciella is my favorite second step here. Spear has some good overlap with the Staff Devout class for Lucielle. Alaya the Alabaster shares the lightning element. She is still a very good unit in the permanent pool that I think for new player, Alaya the Alabaster is a smart third choice. And then Eld, King of the Lions, is kind of the same as this Flagbearer Glaciella unit, that the Spear units do have some good overlap here with the Staff Devout. Now, are all of these units super meta units in top-end PvP? No, but as a new account, you're a far way away from that, so I think you can be very comfortable picking any of these. And so when we get to the second choice here now, if you went the Gilgamesh route, it's slightly different here. I do think Xiao's is still a good first pick. Howl at the Heaven's Blade, though, I like as the second pick. Not only are they both ice units, but they are both part of the Sword Red Mage group, which has some other vision card overlap. Stern Wing of Destiny is kind of a whatever pick here for me on step 3. He's got some overlap, and he's a decently solid unit, but I don't love him. It's kind of just a consolation prize. If you had went Ashen Mont on the popularity poll, here's the thing. Ashen Mont is a Earth unit, and Earth and Ice do have some good element overlap. So if you decided to go Ashen Mont, which I said is a decent recommendation, I would probably go Melnia here instead of Stern Wing of Destiny if you went Ashen Mont. That way you have Melnia, you have Gilgamesh, you have Ashen Mont, you have the Ice and Earth overlap. I think it's pretty solid. And finally, step 4 is just going for Soul here. This is kind of a whatever pick too. There is some overlap between the, again, Staff Devout and the Sword Red Mage group. I just think Soul's an overall generally good character, and I do like him here because if you are going for Shal's, that means you already have 2 fire units together, 2 Staff Devout units. So there are other options here on the step 4. Helen of the Black Rose certainly could be an option, but I don't know if Helen of the Black Rose really goes with Gilgamesh. So he's a really solid unit, but maybe just not optimal from a synergy perspective. And then finally, it's the Jeume route. And if you opted to not pull her on the popularity banner, if you opted to get her from that Select 120, it's very similar, quite frankly, to Gilgamesh because, again, Water and Ice has some good overlap, and so does Great Sword and Sword Red Mage, so it's very similar in terms of what you would pick. This step 3, Alaya the Alabaster, really does nothing to go with Jeume. It's just at that point, based off of the units on step 3 here, Alaya, Melnia, or Stern Wing of Destiny, I don't think any of them really go well with Jeume, and so Alaya being the best of those 3 units, I would just recommend go with her for just overall account health. Now, that's the 4-step based off of the, tree path, right? There is that 60 paid option, which I mentioned, which I do recommend. 60 paid is $1 USD to pick up an extra unit at a level 99. I do think a 5th unit in almost all of these teams is going to help your account go far. If you're going the Lucielle route, you can interchangeably use Soul or Eld King of Leonis. You obviously can see that here on all 3 of the units. I think picking up both of these units is a relatively good pickup for your account. But there are other options. If you're going Lucielle, Skahal is a great farming unit that has another fellow lightning magic user. He does do well for some PvE content. He's got some good Time Mage sub-jobs that I think can do well also. Helen of the Black Robe Witch does have an excellent TMR for new players as well that gives a lot of different units a barrier, so she's a decent option. The rest of these though, I don't love any particular unit, but I do think Alaya is relatively strong for the Gilgamesh and Jeume teams, because I do think she has a good TMR that you can use really early on in the game. And special mention here, I do have Bronwell listed under the Jeume tree, although Bronwell is technically on the step 1 of the select, which I said don't go for her there, go for Shals, just because Shals is generally a better unit. Bronwell does have a TMR that has a haste capability on it, so from that perspective, Bronwell could be a good pick if you want a haste oriented TMR. It's just not my first pick just for overall account health. But Bronwell is a fellow greatsword unit like Jeume, so there's certainly some synergy there as well. Now, that you've got your 4 to 5 units you're playing with here, what are my recommendations for vision cards? This is where I think Lucielle is inferior, quite frankly, because as a new account, you're going to want some espers to go on these units. Not only do you need generally vision cards, but you just have to have an esper. And so the Lucielle route, the vision cards that they have, you acquire espers by them being on a vision card. Not all vision cards have espers, but all espers are on vision cards. And so in that respect, Lucielle, there's a couple really strong vision cards for that group, but there's not many great espers that really synergize, and that's where the Gilgamesh and Jeume route is superior to me, that these 4 different dark espers are not only 4 very strong espers to go on your ice and water units, but they're also 4 very strong just general vision cards that you can use for your ice and water overlap. So I do recommend that. And so when we go back to my best recommendations here, it's really no surprise you see a lot of overall ice and water units. You have Shals here, who is a great starting support for your team. You have really the most bang for your buck overall, in my opinion. And there are some other things to really look for here on your starting up your account to hit the ground running. Now, I have not done any of the beginning content, so my Viz level is very low, but you will accumulate Visior relatively quickly. I would recommend that if you did the paid 360, this will get you to Royal Rank 1, which again I had recommended. If you click this Royal button, this select ticket is for a level 99 unit called Xiza. Now, while this unit's not very good, her TMR is one of the best in the game, so highly recommended to also pick this up if you'd gone the paid route. Again, that's why I think it's great overall for $8 what you get. There are other Royal Rank packs that you will level up the more money you put into this game. I don't know how much it takes, quite frankly, to get up to this level 7, but this is also a decently noteworthy one because this unit here, Robb Hourne, has a TMR that's one of the best TMRs in the game. It's an armor type that basically gives everyone a free extra turn immediately. And so if you are picking your account and you don't think you're going to spend to get to this Royal Rank 7, Robb Hourne actually might be a decent pickup. You know, I have some recommendations here for what you could pick. This is really just from a team synergy perspective, but you could certainly not summon one of these units on the bottom and go for Robb Hourne instead to get that very excellent TMR. But I'll pause there because this is obviously only just the tip of the iceberg for making a new account. These are my personal recommendations. As always, comments, questions, critiques, criticisms, anything you want in the comment section below. Welcome to the game if you've just joined. You might hear some negativity in the community around this game, but I promise you, as a new unit, there is loads of things to do to catch up on from a PvE perspective. You have the entire campaign, you have all the far-playing events, you have the selection quests, you have the reliquary quests. There's so much to do. Don't let any negativity you see online stop you from just playing the game and having some fun. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see y'all later.